The Kentucky Small Business Development Center is a statewide, nationally accredited program that provides no-cost, confidential business coaching and training services. Whether you're just getting started or are ready to expand, we have the tools, resources, and expertise to help you succeed. We're part of a national network, America's SBDC, with over 1,000 centers across the nation. To learn more about how the Kentucky SBDC can serve you, please visit KentuckySBDC.com or email us at info@KentuckySBDC.com. You can also reach us by calling 888-414-7232. Thank you for joining today's webinar. The chat feature is available for you to ask questions and interact with today's speaker. Please take a moment to introduce yourself and where you are watching from today.
Welcome, everyone, to another Wednesday webinar. I'm Dave Etkin. I'm the director in the Louisville Center here in Louisville, Kentucky. And just as always, if you would, look to the right of your screen, you'll see the chat feature. And if you would, just to test to make sure everything's working well, just why don't you give us your name and where you're watching from. It's always great to see we have people from all over popping in. There's Justin and Teresa, Robin from Grayson County. Good to see you, Robin. Again, I'm Dave Etkin, the director here in Louisville, and I've got a great guest today, my good friend Bill Reynolds here in Louisville. He's the CEO and president of Element 502, one of the top digital agencies here in town. And wasn't too long ago, I saw Bill in one of the coffee shops we hang out in, and we were chit-chatting, and he was talking about the how he uses the customer journey to kind of lead, clients, to where he wants them to go. And he had so many great tools and tips and cool tricks. I thought, man, you gotta share some of that stuff with everybody out there. So welcome, Bill. It's good to see you again, as always.
Good to see you, Dave. Thanks a lot. I appreciate the nice intro there.
So we'll just go ahead and get started. And again, if you have any questions or comments or something to say to Bill, just put it in the chat, and we'll pop in, interrupt a little bit, or we'll hold it to the end, and we'll get right to you, get all your questions answered. This is a good time to interface with a good expert. So make sure you do that. So Bill, I'm going to turn it right over to you, and we'll get started.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. And as Dave said, if you guys have any questions while we're presenting, please do put them in the chat. Dave will interrupt me. It's really boring if you just sit here and listen to me talk for 30, 40 minutes straight without any kind of interaction. So please, if something comes up, you have questions, drop them in the chat. Dave will interrupt me. And I see that we got a couple folks here from E-Town. I grew up in E-Town. I'm an E-Town native. I moved up here to Louisville after graduation. I went to college here, and I haven't managed to leave yet. So just a little bit about me, other than the fact that I'm from E-Town. My wife, Melissa, and we've been married for 24 years, and I have two kids, Naomi and Jude. They're 15 and 12. We have a dog named Kaylee. She's 12 years old, and I've been a member of Encounter Church here in Louisville for 7 years. That's a little bit about me, and I always like to start with who I am, because as Dave was talking about customer journeys, and as we set up people to understand why they want to do business with us, the first thing that you really have to do is people like to do business with people they know, people that they make a connection with, people that they can relate to. And that's kind of what we're going to go through. If you think about the idea of a Sherpa, and that's what we called this presentation for today, is being a digital Sherpa. A Sherpa's job is to help someone achieve a goal or to reach a summit. Neat things that Sherpas do along the way when you think about it. If I don't know if any of you have climbed mountains before or just read about it, or I've just seen it on TV. I've never summited Mount Everest or anything like that. But part of what the Sherpa does is that they carry some of the load for that hiker or for that climber. They go ahead, they lay out a trail to follow. And so they're going to help make sure that trail is something easy. They're going to put markers along the way for people to understand here's the path they need to go through. They're going to try to make that path as easy and noticeable as possible, because they don't want it to turn into a mystery. And at the end, the person who gets the credit or who's going to celebrate is going to be that climber. The Sherpa usually stands off to the side. And that's the way whenever we're talking about customers going through, we want our customers to be able to understand who we are, to be able to take an understanding of what they can expect along the way, and then at the end, ultimately, to celebrate with them, because that's who really deserves the glory as we go through. So a little bit about how that all works together. We're a digital agency here in Louisville, as Dave told you. We're Element 502, and we do stories. We tell our story, we tell other people's stories, and so today my goal is to go through 3 quick areas to give some feedback along the way from you guys, as well as how can you use this better inside of your own company. Depending on the size of your screen, this may be really small, but you've probably heard some of this before. And if not, here's an idea of when we talk about audience journey or the customer's journey. David said in the intro, the idea is that when someone is going to learn about you, your product, your service, and that could be a physical service, it could be a carpet cleaning, or it could be restoration, something like that. It could be you as a person. Maybe you're a business coach or own a boutique or going to do landscaping, something like that. So it could be just you that they're learning about, or they could learn about a service that you provide, or your company. Maybe it's something much bigger. Every journey goes through this. And if you even think about the way that you as a consumer approach any kind of product purchase, you go through these steps, and sometimes they go quicker, and sometimes you get stuck at one place for a little bit, and then sometimes you may even pull off the path. And that happens with customers. And so again, as being a Sherpa, we want to make sure we take them all the way through. That very first one is awareness, and that's usually a very broad audience. And so the whole idea behind it is people got to learn that you're there. It's one of the things that always makes me sad is whenever you tell someone what you do and they go, "Oh, I haven't heard about you before, but that sounds really neat." Well, if they had heard about you before, maybe they would have already chosen to do business with you. And those are the ones that sting the worst. Like, "Oh, I wish I'd met you 3 months ago," or "I wish I'd known that you were around because I would have liked to have done business with you." And so that's an opportunity that was lost because they just didn't know that you were there. And that's what that first step is, awareness. Secondly, once they know who you are, they want to know, do they want to do business with you? And that's consideration that's there. That's that people who are asking a few questions, just kind of, we would call this, if back in the old days, you would say, these are tire kickers. There are people who are just kind of checking things out, just kind of looking around. They don't want a full interaction yet. They just want to ask some questions and kind of get their information together. And so they're considering it, actually doing business with you. So they know that you're around. Now they're considering it. And then they're going to go a little bit deeper into that evaluation. And then the evaluation, that's a little bit more aggressive of questions. Sometimes pricing comes up in this, what services they're offered, or even to the point of what are the guarantees, the results, those kind of things that go in there. And then finally, it's that conversion that they actually have accepted. They're part of your company now. They've joined in and they've engaged with you for service. And so our job and what we're going to look at is how is being a Sherpa, or how is being owners of companies or working in marketing, how do we take someone from awareness into that considering to do work with me, going all the way to evaluating, and then eventually to conversion. Now, what I'm going to give you, it's not a magic bullet. It doesn't automatically say that every person who hears about you is going to turn into a conversion. But what we will work on is, as people are following that path, we want to make it as easy as possible. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to set up the trail. If you've ever done any hiking, I like hiking. So that's where a lot of these analogies come from. This pile of rocks that you see are called cairns. So non-marketing, non-SBDC related knowledge that you can walk away with from today. If you ever see a pile of rocks like this on a trail, it's called a cairn, C-A-I-R-N. And the idea behind that, it's a natural flag post that you are on the right trail. And if you ever do any kind of backcountry hiking, trails usually aren't marked with posts and things like they are in some of our national parks and other places. So if you're further out, but what people will do is they'll use the environment around them to be able to guide hikers and guide people through this journey. And usually from one cairn, you can see the next one. They don't want to make it to the point of being a mystery. And so we're going to look at setting up these trails here. And we're going to look at 3 big areas. We're going to look at social media postings. We're going to look at blog writing. And we're going to look at digital and physical leave behinds, things that you use along the way. So that's where we're going to get started. So first off, social media. Let's do a quick poll and kind of get you guys awake here again, because I talked for a little bit there. So on social media, you should see a poll show up here for social media. On the right there, if you could answer for me, do you currently inside of your business, to promote your business, do you use social media at all to promote your business. And we'll give a minute or two for people to put some pieces in here. And it's starting to move a little bit there. Looks like our yeses are quite a lot as we're going in, and some no's. And a lot of times when I see people when they're talking about no's, I don't use social media. It's sometimes that comes from just because it's annoying. The noise and the things that are there and the other pieces to get around. And others are people are like, it just doesn't fit my brand. We're not a social media kind of place, and so that doesn't fit for me. And so both of those come on a lot. I see some people were talking about LinkedIn and some other places, and so you're exactly right. The social network that you use should also match your business. You don't need to play the full card. You don't need to go, oh, I'm going to be on all of them. So it looks like we got about a 2/3. So about 68% say yes, and about 30% say no. So the folks that are on the no side, hopefully you'll see some value in it, and folks who are on the yes side, hopefully I don't run you off from doing this. But we want to look at how do we use social, and what are some ideas along the way to make that more effective. So I'm going to go ahead and close this for now. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. And go back over here. So first of all, on social, one of the things that is a mistake is that when you're on social, don't make every post about you. Don't make it all about buying your stuff. I'll pick on realtors for a minute, because if you ever have friends that are realtors and you follow them on any kind of social media, the number of new house postings that show up is sometimes overwhelming, and you don't get to know them as a person. You don't get to know their company. You don't know anything about them. One of the analogies I've heard that works really great on this is to think of it as a cocktail party. If you're at a cocktail party or a social party with other people, they want to hear about you a little bit, but they also want to know about what you do, and then they want to hear about things that aren't necessarily related to your business, funny stories, travel stories, things about what you run into, and then also just general information. If it's all about you and buying what I have and trying to constantly sound like it's a sales pitch, it doesn't always go over well. So when we talk about social posting and setting up this idea of leading people down the path, the first one is to make sure that it's going to be engaging and not just about buying stuff. Secondly, whenever we're doing social postings, don't take the easy way out. It does take a little bit more time, but if you think about it, it's not that uncommon to see. Anytime that you see a video, I saw a couple of folks say LinkedIn, some others say Facebook. Anytime you see a video on LinkedIn or Facebook, you're bound to read the text a little bit longer and actually click the video if it's got an interesting keyframe more than a picture. But a picture is also more than just a blob of text. And so you'll think about that. If someone posts an update on something, unless there's a direct connection and it's more personal, you're usually going to skip over things that are just a lot of text, unless there's just a really strong attention capturing keyword there right at the very beginning. A picture doesn't just have to be your own face. It can be anybody that's on there. An idea behind that is to show who you are and what you're bringing to the table. And so by doing that, it's a really unique opportunity of just using that picture to engage more than just the text that's there. And that's a huge part, because people want, again, it's how you build that rapport, you build that place as it pulls in. And then finally, video, if you have the opportunity, it doesn't have to be professionally produced. I mean, it can be something that you shoot off your phone. Make sure that it's still, you don't want to just settle. Make it something that's unique. And something that's going to be able to really engage. But just a phone is good. If you have the ability to put up a professional video, think about when you watch highlight reels or sizzle reels or those kind of things from people. The ones that have like really neat transitions and really catchy music behind it. It's a way to engage your audience. And it doesn't feel like you're selling all the time or just saying, buy today, buy today. You're really working to educate and to bring more information out. Next, the pitfall of sharing. And this is one I see a lot, especially on LinkedIn. I saw, again, some folks talking about LinkedIn. If you see a great article from a magazine or from an industry magazine, something like that, don't just share it and put the title of the article. And at the risk of sounding a little snarky, if I wanted to read a magazine article, then I would go to that magazine and read it. The fact that you're sharing it is just throwing information out there. If it's something that was valuable to you, when you share it, comment on it. Put some of your thought with it. Don't just share it because you saw somewhere or on some kind of online portal that you should share something every day to show your LinkedIn or your audience following that you're engaged. Don't just share. Make it something a little bit more. And that's why I call the pitfall of sharing. So if you've got something to talk about it. Share it with people. Put those things out there. And then we have keep it interesting. And I say that because it's one of those hard things that if it bores you to write about it, it's probably going to bore other people to read about it. Now, depending on your industry, there are things that we talk about that may not be the the most engaging throughout all of our people. But the other side of it is, how do you keep it interesting? Let's see. So Teresa here was talking about that a lot of her audience likes the behind the scenes video of how her products are made. That's interesting. It's more than just seeing what you do and what your end result is. They want to know how it works. Who are the people? What are the processes? What does it look like? This is why like factory tours and distillery tours and all these things are fun to be in, because you get to see how things go, and it's just a different kind of process. And again, they see a true side of you, because if you ever do any kind of candid videos inside of your office or while you're out, maybe you're at a festival or you're out in the field, people get to see who you are. And that's so interesting and so much more engaging than just sitting and being. Because all around behind you, I mean, you guys see me, you see this picture behind me, but you have no idea what's going on around. I mean, I could be in the corner of my basement holed up somewhere, or I could be in the middle of our production studio at our office. But being able to see how that works is really an interesting type thing. And so remember, keep it interesting. Now, I also heard a great story today from another friend that was talking about, be careful about how humor and snarkiness is. Don't try to promote yourself, especially at the expense of someone else. And I thought that was a really valuable lesson for myself to hear this morning, because I didn't want somebody to see it. So I didn't want somebody to feel their feelings were hurt or feel like I was stepping up because of that. And so that's why we want to make sure that we keep it interesting as it goes in. So, and next, don't forget the CTA or the next step. And you'll hear this. I'll put this on quite a few of these slides as we're talking through. But what I always tell people, you can put really neat things out there, but don't expect people just to go, oh, well, now they want me to do this. And it's not rude, and it's not mean, and it's not condescending, talking down to anybody. Just, isn't it so much nicer that you know what you're supposed to do next? It's like when you go to a restaurant and it's a quick service restaurant, so you're not going to sit down with the menu, but you're looking at the menu, and maybe it's a build your own type thing, like a pizza place or a sandwich place. Don't you like it whenever they put up signs that tell you, like, start here, order here, pay here? So just, again, when you're asking people, and make it nice and easy. So if your next step is you want them to schedule or look at something else, make sure that you look at my other videos about this. Make sure that if you want to have a free consultation, go to my website and sign up. And here's the address. Don't make people hunt. Don't make people work on this. And it's not calling people lazy or saying anything mean. It's just to remove the confusion. And that's really what the whole idea behind social postings and different things are. I've got a couple of examples here. Here's a home automation company that did it. It's got an interesting video. It's got stuff all over it. And again, contact us, learn more. We used a lot of hashtags on this one, because that way we can do social tracking, and it goes to some other pieces, but also just talk about what can we do. And it's not, buy. It's, again, we're talking to the customer. Here's how all these things work together to make sure that your life works as easy as possible. So engaging, easy to understand, and quick to the point. Another one we did for a cleaner. Whenever you see this picture, you're quickly going to understand this is about cleaning. The very first thing, commercial cleaning business is needed. So right there, we're looking and seeing, and how do we bring that engagement together? How do we talk to people? How do we bring these things in? And so that's when we talk about doing this work or doing these kind of thing. This is how we work. Let's see. Let's go over here to the chat. It looks like David was talking about how the sausage is made videos and made in America products and YouTube channels. YouTube is another great social place to put this. And as a matter of fact, if you're sharing videos inside of any of your social media, we recommend creating a YouTube channel and sharing links over to it rather than sharing straight through that social media's video player. And the reason is because YouTube is still the second largest search engine in the world, right behind Google, and Google owns both of them. And so that's why you see YouTube videos show up when you do Google searches. So kind of get a 2-for-1 kind of idea is if you're going to post videos to your social media, go ahead and upload them to a YouTube channel, which is free to make and very easy. Once you put that video up in the YouTube channel, type a good description about what it is, because again, those things can show up in search engines and other places. And then as people are looking for, they'll find you. If they see the video that's there on your social media channel, that little YouTube link down at the bottom, it'll show other videos from your channel as they're watching at the end, or they can click on it and just go straight over to your channel. So never overlook an opportunity to be able to share as much information on as many different platforms as you can. Oh, I've been looking at the chat here. Does anybody else have any questions or anything about this as we're getting ready to move into blogging? So as we're wrapping up talking about social posts and how do we lead people along the way, how do we make that content interesting and easy to find that path? Any questions or comments from anybody over here? So if you could drop them in the chat if you have any questions or comments about that. So there's Teresa. Yes. Well, and the other part about that is if you think about it and you make Teresa was talking about that she's been blogging her mompreneur, which is a great term. It's a stay-at-home or a working mom who's also got a side hustle besides doing the incredible job of raising kids, of actually running a business as well. Teresa, a quick 1 minute and a half, just talking about your journey. And putting that up on YouTube, super easy. And actually in YouTube now, in the Studio Creator, you can actually record straight to YouTube and do all your work right there. And so they've made it very easy. And one of the things that, as far as keeping it interesting and making that connection, there's C.S. Lewis has a great quote. He says, friendships develop from the first time you're talking to someone and they look at you and say, oh, you too. Because everybody's journey, as they continue to connect, as they continue to learn more about each other, that's what creates engagement. And if anything has happened over the past year and a half, we've learned about how important engagement and personalization is in our world and the people around us. And so make yourself available. I'm not saying that you carry a camera around 24/7, but keeping those things in. Let's see. Lindsay's got a great question. How do you manage all this? Yes, it's a time, but one of the things that you can do on that, Lindsay, is to make sure that you set a focus every day. And so don't overdo it, just one at a time. So today I'm going to post a blog. Tomorrow I'm going to put up a YouTube channel. Tomorrow I'm going to do a social media post. And just keep a cadence and a rhythm, because the consistency is more important than quantity. And so just being consistent about it. And it's important if it's things that are important to you, you will make a priority. And so make sure that you stay on top of those and putting them in. And again, don't make it forced. And so if you need to take a break, say, I'm taking a break. So just let people know, because if you go to someone's social channel and it's been empty for a while, their website looks like it's kind of a little dusty and rusty because it hasn't been used a lot, or there's not a lot of updates to it, then it gets left out. So there you go. Teresa's talking about batching and repurposing and putting things in. And Justin was talking about, raised a kid and now he's a dadpreneur. So I love it. And just continuing to go. And the other thing is to look for community. Lindsay and Teresa and Justin, since you guys are at the top of my chat here, I'm going to mention your names. Look for community, other people around you, other preneurs, especially that are in that parentingpreneur kind of sphere of working together. And how can you do things, as an economy of scale? Those are great opportunities are there. So don't ever forget that you're not in this alone. And it doesn't always have to be, I had to pay someone to do this. Trades and other things are always great on how those things come together. and play to each other's strengths and weaknesses. So there you go. Lindsay needs some help. So some folks you can reach out, DM Lindsay there, and try to get her some help as we go in. All right. So I'm going to jump over to blogs because Lindsay, I hate to kind of, if you already were screaming for help, here's another one that we're going to throw on here. So let's talk about blogs. I'm going to go ahead and put up another poll here just to kind of get a feel. So do you consider blog writing an important part of marketing and prospecting? I don't know who my no person is, but man, they jumped right on that one. I said, heck no, I'm not on there. So let's give this just a minute or two here to kind of percolate through. It looks like it's staying pretty steady. The people are saying, oh, we're about 50-50 now. We're moving over. Uh-oh. The teeter-totter's moving. All right. We're looking like we're on that same split of blogging. And a lot of times when people say no on blogging, there's a couple different reasons for that. We'll hear things that I don't read blogs. I think they're dumb and a waste of time. So I don't want to be a part of that. I hear people say the blogs don't do much for me anyway. I'm not feeling it like they're giving me any kind of return. So why would I want to waste my time on that? Or the things I write about are too technical for people to understand. Well, here's the truth about blog writing. If you write for people first, and that's why this is my first point here on blog writing, write for people first. And what I mean for that, don't try to keyword stuff thinking that you're going to trick the search engines to rank your stuff at the top because they're searching for whatever goods, products, service you offer. And so you're going to just stuff away with all these keywords. Don't think that's going to trick the search engine. In fact, it's going to work against you. The search engine reads just like you and I do. And so we want to make sure that we write for people first. And the idea behind writing a blog is a way to share either your information and your knowledge, so it's just from an educational standpoint. Here's something that we do as a company. Maybe it's a little bit bigger. So here's how, here's an important topic you need to understand. Maybe it's a social topic, maybe it's an economic topic, environmental, or maybe it's just an answer to a question that people didn't even know about yet. Maybe it's a service for aging parents or skincare or home cleaning or any of these other things. So on the blog writing, it's really a way for people to know who you are and to bring your thoughts and your knowledge in a written form out. Blogs need to be 800 words or more to really matter for the search engine. But the idea behind it is, again, not to be a research paper or those kind of things, but it's a way to put that information out. And where it becomes important is a couple of different things. It becomes important for the search engine. So as we're talking about being the digital Sherpa and leading our customers along, and then to even be able to be seen back in that first slide where we talked about awareness and making sure that people knew who we are, to be able to be ranked and to see that Google wants to see that you're touching your web page, that you're putting information out, that things are continuing to change, and blogs are a great way of doing that. Secondly, it's a quick way for someone when they find you to look at a couple of topics and a couple of other things, and this may happen especially in kind of more professional services, to figure out, do you really know what you're talking about? And I say that with all sincerity because there's a lot of people who, especially for all of our folks who are on here, you know that there's a lot of people that are in your product field or industry that really don't do nearly as good a job as you do. And so we would use the kind of the derogatory term of shyster on that they just, they talk a good talk and they throw up some great stuff, but at the end of the day, they're not doing a good job at it. And so blogs are a great way, again, for someone who does understand what they're looking for to quickly read through and to use that as a place to understand who you are. Another thing you can do with blog writing is you can reference that in your social posts or any kind of emails for contacts, for prospecting, for other things, because you can say, again, it's a nicer journey along the way, instead of, because Sherpas don't drag people up a mountain, they lay out the path and let them walk it. And so you can say, hey, you were interested in this, I wrote something about it, it may be of interest, here you go, and you just send them a link to it. Those kind of things are why we write for people first, because we want people to be able to read our content, interact with it, and be able to pull things in. Secondly, Google has this great acronym called EAT. And EAT stands for expertise, authority, and trust. And so that's Google's acronym. And so when you write a blog, they want to make sure that you speak with expertise, so you know what you're talking about, authority, so that I have the, not only do I know what I'm talking about, but I speak with authority, someone that actually understands more than just I Googled it and wrote a document on it. And then finally, trust. It builds trust that what you say is true. These become important, especially because as people are looking at any kind of health and beauty, any kind of medical related, or even in their own homes now, since people are in their homes more often than in the times in the past, we want to make sure that we trust whoever it is that we're working with. I heard a fun story from a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago. She was talking about that she was going to a trip at the Red River Gorge. And so she got there. She was going to rent a cabin with her family, and they were just going to have a family weekend. Well, she also likes to hike. So she joined a hiking group on Facebook and was telling people, hey, she was going to be at the gorge that weekend. They said, oh, well, a couple of days, you're getting there on a Friday. On Thursday, we're actually doing a hiking trip. And so she put on there, okay, I'll meet you in the parking lot and see you there. And she said that her mom called her and said, so let me get this straight. You're going to meet up with a bunch of strangers you don't know in a parking lot and go walking off in the woods without knowing who these people are. And she's like, well, yeah, we're going to go on a hike together. I maybe not be the bestest of ideas, but the idea comes from that there was trust that was there because the group was big enough, and there was authority behind it because they were a hiking group. It wasn't the white van sitting down at the end of the road. And they were talking with expertise because that channel was full, that group was full of people talking about different hiking trails to take, equipment to take. And this was just a day hike. It wasn't going to be a long one. But again, bringing that authority and that trust. And so as you talk about, well, what do I do or where do these things go? Think about blog writing as an opportunity. Now, as far as frequency, you can go as far out as every 5 or 6 weeks. I would highly recommend against jumping into this and go, I'm going to write a blog every day or every week. That's kind of a couch to marathon idea there. Take it easy. Just try to do it every 3 or 4 weeks. Set a goal and stay on that. And that way you can write a little bit at a time. If you're in a group of people or you're in a company and there are several folks that you can do, put it on a rotation. So that way it spans that out even more. We're going to publish a blog every 4 weeks. And so between the 4 of us, that really gives me 3 months to write a blog. And so every month someone's writing one, but I can still be working on mine. Now, yes, I am one of the closet procrastinating kind of people. And so I can say all that. And what we all know will happen is like the day that you need to have it published or over to the web or to whoever's supposed to review it, you'll probably do it either that night or early that morning. But it sounds nice to be able to say that you can kind of set it up on a schedule. But again, plan, set a reasonable goal, and go from there. Next that we want to talk about as far as blogging comes is grammar. And I recommend there's a website called Grammarly, 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 because grammar really does count. Whenever I was in school, we would always ask during the test, does spelling count? And I had this teacher say, well, yes, spelling always counts. Whereas the idea was that to be able to spell the words correctly was just as important as knowing the information. And that comes across in grammar because for the search engine reads like people. And so if a sentence is rough, if it's hard to understand, if it just sounds kind of choppy or run on, the search engine's going to have trouble understanding what you were trying to say, just as much as a person will. And so you've probably all read information, either a pamphlet, maybe it's a billboard, maybe it's the copy on a website, and it just sounds stilted or just doesn't really make sense about who's saying what. That's going to be an issue. And that's going to, again, that trail that we're trying to set up, that journey, that path, it's hard to follow. And so don't do that. Grammarly is a free tool. You can do the paid version. It'll drop in everything, but it checks for all this stuff. I am not good at English. I can speak English, but I'm not like an English major as far as writing. And so all those things like dangling participles and split infinitives and insufficient subjects and needing different words and all that, Grammarly does all of that. So you can go to Grammarly.com, drop something in, and boom, off it goes. It is fantastic. It's a great way of making sure, or if you have someone that you work with that's really knowledgeable and really smart about about a particular topic, but maybe the sentence structure and those kind of things are a little rough, This is a fantastic tool to be able to use for that. And again, keep it interesting. If at any point in time you're putting out any kind of content for your prospective audience that you're doing just for the sake of putting it out, if you feel like it's a chore or a task to put it out, then don't, because it's going to read like that, it's going to look like that, it's going to feel like that. And so don't put it out just for the sake of, because that's not going to capture people's attention. Make it interesting, something that's important, and not saying like it needs to have tons of flash and tons of other, of excitable words or those kind of things, but just make sure it's something that really engages people. That whether that's going to be because of what the end result is of doing, or it could be just it could be a topic that people just didn't know about. I have a friend that is a commercial cleaner, and one of the things that she does is that all of the chemicals and all the things that she uses for cleaning are all organic and natural. And she said that was really important to her because as a new mom, she wanted to make sure that everything in her house that she was using for cleaning was not going to harm the health of her child. Because I know I got some mompreneurs and dadpreneurs out there. And so when you're raising kids, you know that there's that beautiful age where they just kind of lay around and don't do much. And then you get to the next part to where whenever they're in your home, they put everything in their mouth. And so we want to make sure that anything that we have cleaned, we want to make sure that that's not going to harm them. Now, I know I have kids, and so you guys know also too that there's a lot of things that we don't clean that kids still put in their mouths and still make us cringe. But the idea is that it was important to her to talk about how environmentally friendly and also people friendly you can still get a good, clean home, still be happy with the results, but also do what's best for your family. That was a great couple of articles that she put together, and it wasn't a fear and talking about all of the dangers and all of the horrible things that happen from these using the other kind of commercial cleaning products, but really it was more along the lines of what do you have and what is the value that you bring to your family. And blogs, again, I told you, don't forget to tell them what the next step is, the CTA, call to action. Tell them what you want to do. At the end of the blog, if you have your own tips on this, email them to me. I'd love to hear and start a conversation with you. If you want to learn more about this, go to our webpage here and sign up for an appointment, call me, whatever those things are. Put it in there. Just tell people what you think the next step should be. So again, it's planting those markers, those flags along the way, and showing people, here's how we want to follow through this journey. Here's how we want to walk you through this. And here's where you can go along the way. And if you think about that customer journey we talked about at the beginning, there's that awareness. And then they start to interview you, start to look at questions, start to raise. They become engaged a little bit more and then take it down to consideration. These are the things that you're wanting people to do, because as they read this information, they'll go ahead and escalate the amount of interaction they have, but tell them where to go to keep learning so that they can keep on that journey with you. Don't ever leave somebody hanging or just at a spot where they feel like they've hit a dead end because they're like, oh, well, that was cool, and then just leave. Or if maybe it's going to take a little bit longer to move down that journey. And so that's okay too. And when you write, make sure that it's something that again, doesn't sound just like you're selling. We work with a company that does insulation for homes. And so they have a special kind of insulation they do. They have their own products and services that they offer there. And so instead of saying buy our insulation, buy our insulation, buy our insulation, some of the blogs that we write are questions you should ask your builder when you get started. What are some of those things that come up? Now, it shouldn't be of any surprise to anyone that one of the questions that we put in this blog as we put it together was, what kind of insulation are you using in my interior and exterior walls? Which is a question that obviously is going to be answered by our customer that we're writing for. But the other ones are, again, this is something that you can walk away with real information, because the things that we put in here weren't just, how long have you been in business and things like that, but things that a customer or someone could really interact with and bring forward. Those are the kinds of things that we want to put in blog writing. And again, it's a great opportunity to stay in front of, and as well as being able to show that I have expertise, authority, and you can trust me, because I'm not just sounding like I'm standing on the street corner with a sandwich board and hawking my wares. So that's when we talk about blog writing and how that's part of this digital journey, how important that is. So any questions on that or any other pieces? So let's see, I'm gonna jump over here. So I got Lindsay talking about Grammarly, best investment you ever made. Yes, I totally agree. I have it on all of my stuff. Haven't read a blog since Google Reader went extinct. This probably speaks more to my short attention span than the relevance of blogs. Now, Medina, you say that, but the other part about it is that remember when we talked at the beginning on social, we talked about how important videos were. And so even a quick video blog that has a link to a longer blog may bring your attention into it because it really kind of sets the hook on that. So think about using both of those together on that. And then Justin and Lindsay were talking about using this for SEO 100%. And yeah, Justin, you're right. Working in this stuff every day, this is what starts to change the needle of where that goes in. So, any other questions about blogging or how to use it within your own company or offering as we talk about this being part of our digital journey? All right, I'm not seeing anything new show up in the chat. So I'm going to take us around the bend here as we're going to the bottom of our time together. All right, so the third area that we talked about are those leave behinds, those digital or physical leave behinds. So let me put up my last poll for our time together here. And let me go ahead and put this up. So when at an event, so this could be maybe a festival or maybe just a trade show, something like that. And you see these people, they have their table set up, they have pamphlets, brochures, all kinds of stuff. Do you take that stuff with you? So we'll give it a minute here, see if everybody goes through that. Looks like we got a lot of people that take that stuff. So the idea behind leave behinds and brochures and taking those, it's an easy way. Here, take this, and the hope is that someone will interact with it later on. My follow-up poll should be how much of that stuff do you hold on to? Because sometimes, yeah, see, there's a couple of no's showing up in here. Sometimes when you get home, you're like, I don't even remember what what this was. I don't know why I took this. I took this just because they were handing it to me and throwing it away. And so those idea of these leave behinds are really going to be from the standpoint of getting a lasting idea and setting up more markers. Because again, as we talked about with this idea of Sherpa carrying that idea through, they set up the trail, they make it easy to follow, they set guidelines and markers along the way, but they're not there all the time either to be showing you and pointing you. And so these leave behinds are kind of a way of giving something physical or digital to someone that it tells them what is that next step and to continue them on that journey. So the idea is, what's the marker? What are you going to put out? Again, if it's something that you made online, that could work out great and print it out. But what does it look like? Is it easy to understand? Is it overly full of text? In the chat we were talking about, if my attention span gets lost too easily, I'll just throw it away. And Justin, you're my shill here. I'm going to get to what you said here in just a second. So, and it's secondly on the leave behind, meeting people where they are. Justin put in the chat about using QR codes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that here in just a second. But meeting people where they are means giving them something that they can relate to. Don't give them a product spec sheet with all kinds of schematics and drawings and stuff on it. They just said, well, what do you do? Maybe they're asking that later on because it's a technical sale or a technical buy, but that's something that's important. Or I mentioned health and beauty. People want to know, what are the ingredients? What is going to go on? What am I putting on my skin or using in my cleaning or in my personal hygiene routines? If it's going to be something technical, like a component, some kind of technology, how often do I have to charge it? How easy is it to run? Those kind of things. So meeting people where they are is giving them information they can understand where they're at in that journey, but also in the way that they want. If you guys have gone out to any kind of events here recently, one of the things that really seems to be showing up is because now that we're okay to hang out with other people, is also asking people what's the level of interaction you're comfortable with. I've been at events where they give you an option of stickers, red, yellow, green, red being stay away. I really don't want any physical interaction, but I'm happy to see you and wave and talk to you. Yellow, let's do a fist bump maybe, but let's still be really respectful of personal space and just contact. And then green is, I'm all in for hugs and high fives. So if you haven't seen you for a while, come on in, I'm ready for it. And that really is a great way of meeting people where they are, because as we're talking about, after the past year and a half, how do we interact with people and where do you feel comfortable with? That's an easy way of seeing that from those stickers on a badge. Well, your leave behind should work the same way, so that if someone says, I don't want to take that piece of paper, I don't want to either physically interact, I'm in a hurry, or maybe just time and distance are there, because today, all the stuff we have, you guys will be able to have access to this video and to this slide deck, but I'm not physically in your space, and so you can't get things from me. So meet people where they are, and with that understanding is important. Secondly, QR codes, and this is where I was talking about. So QR codes are great for a mixed medium audience. And what I mean by that is that if you're doing an online presentation like you guys are watching today, QR codes are great, because what you can do, there's probably, if you guys are on your phones, there's a very small number of people who usually do these on their phones. They may call in, but it's for audio only. But usually if you're doing some kind of video presentation, you've got me on an iPad, or you've got me on a laptop, or maybe on your desktop somewhere, maybe front and center, maybe off to the side, just as you're doing other things and working on other things, so that you can continue to hear the speaker. And then if there's something that's engaging, you'll go ahead and pull that up. Putting a QR code on the screen while you're talking, someone can take their phone, scan that QR code, and go to a website or go to something else. And so remember, if you're going to do any kind of online presentation, or if you're on a lot of Zoom meetings, you can set your own background, or Microsoft Teams, or any of these online. Remember, you can set your own background behind you. Put your QR code on that background, and that QR code could lead maybe to your LinkedIn profile. Maybe it leads to your website. Maybe it leads to a follow-up form or something like that. So just think through the idea of QR codes. And if you're not familiar with what a QR code is, a QR code is is the square with all the different shapes inside of it. It looks like this. There's my physical prop that you can use. And the whole idea behind it is that whenever you scan that with a smartphone, it'll see that little shape. It'll bring up a box usually and say, hey, this is trying to take you to a website. Do you want to go? And they're free. You don't need to pay anyone to generate a QR code for you. Just go to Google, look at free QR code generator. There's tons of sites out there. You can pay to make them kind of fancy and those kind of things, but just get the free version, print it on anything, and then that way when people scan it, it gives them an opportunity. We see this a lot even at trade shows, to where we can put the little sign I held up, we put that on our trade show table, and that way as people are walking by, if they want to have more information about us, they don't want to interact with us, they just want to kind of go, you'll see someone can take their phone, quickly scan the code, and keep walking, and then they can read more about it. And again, it's just making people comfortable and where they're at, and especially with this mixed medium that we have today. And respecting their time. That's the other things about leave behinds. If the leave behind is a full-on brochure, multiple pages, make sure that they're at the point of their journey to where they want to read that much. Otherwise, they're going to look at it and their heads are going to start to spin, eyes are going to roll back, and they're going to be done. They're going to throw it away, and they're not going to interact. So respect their time. Also, if you're asking someone to fill out a form to get more information or anything, make it as short as possible. Don't be lazy and try to get the form to do all of your pre-qualification for you. Make your form quick and easy. Name and email. That's what we always recommend. If you're going to put a form to do any kind of follow-up, name and email. Once you talk to them, you can figure out the rest. What company, how long they've been in business, how many people, those kind of things. Unless there's like a big qualifier that you need to have answered right off the bat, just go ahead and do that during the phone call that's there. And don't be creepy. What I mean by that, there's a lot of software. There's a lot of different things that you can do with follow-up emails, with things on your website. If you send someone an email and they click on the link, and your CRM system sends you back a message that says, Bill just clicked on the link, don't pick up the phone and call them immediately. That's just creepy. Don't be creepy. Use the technology wisely, and just make sure that you, again, think about how you would want to be treated in those situations as they go in. And what I was talking about, again, don't forget the CTA or the next step. If you want to learn more about who we are, what we do, here's a way to learn. Here's a card that we put out. One of the places where we were speaking, talking about digital audience identification, and a lot of other fun acronyms and other places. So we made just a little card that we could hand out to people. It had a picture of what we had talked about. We gave them a website they can go if they just wanted to scan a QR code or email or call us. We put all that information right there on the screen. Again, don't be creepy, being able to put it up there and to show people, here's where we want that next step. And those leave behinds are super crucial to be able to pull that out. Let's see. Awesome information. Idea of the QR code. Awesome. I have a QR code on my front door that takes passersby to your website. Yes, that's a fantastic one. Totally agree. Business cards in one pocket, the rest in another for me. There you go. Follow up business cards. It's a great way whenever you're physically in front of people. Take pamphlets, postcards, business cards as a reminder. Once I have followed them on social media bookmark, I discard the paper. Yes, but these QR codes, again, really great, easy ways. It's because that way you don't have to ask people to write stuff down, and you put it back in their own seat. And really along the way, hopefully some of the things that you've understood or pulled out here is that whenever you're pulling in people, you're walking them through this journey, we try to make it as easy as possible. That QR code that people would scan for the one that we just showed you takes you to a phone like this. So I got a name, I've got an email or phone number. You can do either one that's there. And then what's the best way to contact you? Either phone or email. And then if you want to tell us anything else, that's fine. So at the end of the day, we practice what we preach. Tell us who you are. We asked for a company because the talk we were at was specific for businesses, not for individuals. And so we needed to have a company name there. So name, company, some bit of contact, and go. Make it quick, make it easy. Another friend of mine always talks about a stoplight form fill. And what she was talking about was that if I'm at a stoplight and I'm going through a message on my phone and I find it to click to get more information, I need to be able to fill out that form in less time than I'm waiting for that stoplight before I go. And that goes back to attention span, as well as just respecting people's time and where they go. And those are ways around that as you're pushing through, as you're bringing up more information, as you're sharing stuff. Just think about that journey along the way of being able to use effective social postings, keeping that information interesting as well as engaging for people, looking at effective blogging so that you can share thoughts, help for search engine and other pieces, as well as just the leave behind. Think about that next step. Put together something nice, whether it's physical, digital, either one, to go in. And being able to share that information is how we set that journey up so that ultimately we're leading people along and they become a customer of ours. And just in the idea of being part of a bigger picture than that is how do we take that journey? And even if someone doesn't become our customer, do we give them that, as long as they've been on the trail with us, is it something that's enjoyable, and are they walking away with more information? Because at the end of the day, doing good in the world is not going to hurt anybody. And if anything, it's just going to make us all rise up together a little better. So that's about the end of what I have now. So if there's any other questions or any burning things, jump into the chat there. I'll be happy to answer them. Justin says, is that HubSpot? The form I showed you, no, is not HubSpot. That's something that we developed directly for our website, Justin, to be able to put that up there. And so that goes into our CRM system, which is it's a different system. It's not HubSpot, but HubSpot is a great one. They offer a lot of free tools, especially for smaller amounts of contacts and other ways of interaction. So another great way of pulling that in. Oh, thanks for the question.
Nice. That was great, Bill.
Thanks, Dave.
That was really good. Let's see any other questions, but maybe you could just speak just a little bit about how you help companies.
So at Element 502, there were a couple of people like, oh my gosh, how do you stay in front of all of these different things? This is one of the services we offer as a marketing agency, is to be able to put this. From the idea of we work with people as deep or as shallow as they need us to. And when we say that, what we're talking about is you may have all the social media stuff taken care of. You just need someone to give you some graphics every now and then, or do a little bit of blog writing, or maybe you just need someone to call and talk to and say, hey, how do we put these things together? I'm also a SCORE volunteer, and so SCORE is a great resource to do that. The folks at SBDC to be able to kind of get some of that planning and some of the more strategic side of that. But on the other piece, we can do the execution there. Some of the examples I showed you are our work that we do for others, and we don't put our name at the end of it. We put your name. So we are true ghostwriters, and we give you all the credit. We give you all of the pieces that go there, and we have some people that turn over everything. And so we actually log in, post as them, put all the information up, and keep that on the schedule, and then watch for interaction and go.
Yeah. So. Especially some of the smaller clients that I know that you work with, you've done a spectacular job with helping them so they can actually do what they need to do, and that's sell their services and products, as opposed to managing all these balls in the air that you can take care of.
Yes. Well, and that's what's nice. And so being effective in outsourcing sometimes is a great way of making sure that you have more time in your day to focus on those things. And it's as any business owner's journey, you learn that, yeah, I'm spending a little bit of money, and so I'm not putting quite as much money in my bank account at the end of the day. But what it did in freeing me up to be able to focus on the main things is super awesome. So,
yeah. Let's see. So Justin, I think we should put your slide back up on again there, Bill, with your contact info.
Sure, I can put that back up.
I think you're still at the same spot, maybe.
If not, you can just, there we go. And start.
There we go. Good.
There's all my contact stuff. You can visit us. You can email me. That's fine. That's my personal email. I'll be happy to help you guys out, or anybody on the call, however they want to. You can call our office, that 267 number. That's our local office dial. You can call, ask for me. I'll be happy to help along the way. I always joke with people, and because when they ask, they're like, "Can I really call you?" Yes, and I don't send you a bill. You'll know in advance if there's going to be if at any point in time there needs to be payment involved. But if we can just help anybody and give them a little bit of a point in the right direction, we'd love to do that.
Well, while we still have that slide up, maybe everyone out there would like to scan Bill's QR code and see what happens.
Yeah, you could scan the QR code and go through. And again, as we talked about this mixed medium, this is a great way to lead people straight through. Just kind of there you go. Justin got a screen capture. So, and just kind of a heads up, make sure that when you scan these QR codes, they do from time to time, especially if you go through the free ones, they'll degrade, and then so they won't work. And so it's kind of like getting a new cell phone. Sometimes you get somebody else's you get a cell phone number and you start getting calls from somebody who used to have that one before. So before you go into a presentation, double check your QR codes. So to make sure that it leads where you want them to lead. So that way you make sure you don't end up with oops, because oopses are never good. You don't like oopses, especially when you're out presenting. So, check phone numbers, check QR codes.
Cool. Everybody seemed to really enjoy it today. So Bill, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
And then later on today, everyone, we'll send you the replay like we always do. And also, if you'd like to check out all the other webinars we have them on the library at KentuckySBDC.com/webinars. Just that easy. And you can watch them over and over again if you'd like. So again, Bill, thanks. It's
awesome.
Good seeing you. I'll see you at our favorite coffee shop here soon, I know.
Yes, we will. And so until next time, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. See you next Wednesday.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining today's webinar. At the Kentucky SBDC, we know small businesses are the heart of our economy. That's why our goal is to help business owners start, grow, and succeed in Kentucky. Find out more about how our no-cost business coaching, training, and resources can help your business. Visit us at KentuckySBDC.com.